You probably clicked on this video because you want to learn how to turn this down into this in the best way possible. Well, it's a lot more simple than you might think. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my strategies on how I pan down gravel and sand down to microfine gold with a very high recovery rate. Let's get into it. So in order to pan microfine gold, I would say you don't really need much else on top of what you normally have, other than a classifier, a nice, really fine classifier that's very much needed. And ideally, I don't normally use dish liquid, but for microfine gold, I would say a drop of dish liquid in the pan to break the surface tension. What that will do is gold's hydrophobic, so it actually repels water. So despite its density, gold can actually float on top of water if you don't have something to break the surface tension. And this is most prevalent when you're panning off microfine gold. Here is an example of floating gold. See those little bits of gold? They are gold. Hard to tell on camera. That one there, see? They're all golden. They're floating on the water. Most of the gold's sunk. However, we've got these little bits of fine gold floating on top. That's because of gold's hydrophobic properties. And that is why we use a drop of dish liquid. So you need a classifier, your pans, your dish liquid. Everyone says you want a seasoned pan. See how this pan has got all this wear and tear. It's been used for years and it's got cracks and crevices and everything all over it. I actually disagree with that. A seasoned pan is better in 99% of situations, heavily seasoned. However, when dealing with microfine gold, of course I want a seasoned pan. I don't want a pan that's going to be full of oils. So like this one, it's been used, it's got the scratches, it's got crevices, the oils, the factory oils are all off it. I want the oils gone. But I actually prefer to deal with microfine gold when there aren't all those inconsistencies in the pan. Reason for that is all your gold in the pan is going to be behaving exactly the same. When we go to this one, you'll get fine gold getting stuck in the likes of these crevices, the cracks, the scrapes, which is good for your actual panning process, but when it comes to separating it, that can actually make it more difficult. The key for microfine gold I've found is separation. It's keeping it in the pan while panning off isn't that much more difficult. The hardest part is the separation. But to illustrate to you how heavy gold is, even these microfine gold particles, when contending with these huge rocks, are just sitting there, back like that. So microfine gold may seem difficult to pan, but in reality, it's all just sitting there, separating very easily. Now, let's get into the first step of panning this microfine gold. So, we've got our first lot of material here. And now, we're going to do the first step, which is classifying it down. This is, I actually cannot remember the mesh, but it is a very fine classifier. I'll just say that. And that will separate all of our flakes from our fine gold. First step, I'm going to add my drop of dishwash liquid. All you need is one drop just like that. Give it a good mix and we're good to go. So when classifying, some people prefer to dry out their material like this and dry classify. However, I always prefer to wet classify, as even though it might take longer, it guarantees I get everything through. So here, see this is all gravel and gold and everything floating? Watch this. The reason this stuff hasn't stopped floating before is because this water's been isolated. One drop. Instantly. Now, let's classify. That's all our gravel classified down. We have the big stuff and the small stuff. So now, I'm obviously going to do the obvious thing and pan down our larger material. This stuff from the site is super interesting. Look at all that garnet. It's almost every big rock here is just garnet gemstones. This is the same gravel as we use in our Sluices Gold Pay Dirt. If you want any Sluices Gold Pay Dirt, just let me know by flicking me an email at thesluices@gmail.com and I can sort you out. Now for the larger material like this, I'm not even going to bother putting dishwash liquid in. I'm just going to quickly pan it down like normal. Often when dealing with rocks, larger rocks like this, not using the riffles can actually be more effective. See how the lighter stuff's just floating off the side while the heavies are sitting back at the bottom. See all our light coloured pea gravels on the side panning off, while our heavy red garnets are sitting there at the bottom. And now, here's point number 1. Make sure you spend a very long time classifying with microfine gold. You may think this is classified. Have a look at this. Look at how much microfine gold just came out of there. All that is unclassified stuff that didn't get through. And I spent a good minute classifying. But that's our big stuff. We'll suck that out. But yeah, make sure you classify very thoroughly. Because we could have lost some gold there if I hadn't been so careful. Just finished off panning those plus classifier size. No larger gold came out of it, just the microfine gold. And I got all the microfine gold out in just 2 spin backs. But now, it's on to the real difficult stuff. And what I'm filming this video for. So, the fine gravel. The key is to get it all down to a fine size to make it as easy to work with as possible. However, when you're dealing with gravel like this, with microfine gold, most of the time, look in the pan, you'll be contending with a lot of black sand. And that's where it gets really difficult. So the key is small quantities. This would be far too much for one pan to successfully pan down to just gold. What I would suggest is doing a tablespoon at a time of this minus classifier size. It's difficult, but sometimes it's your only option. I'm going to do all this just for video's sake, but it is likely that I might lose a percentage or two when you're panning a large amount. It depends how fussy you are with your recovery, but I would suggest, a quarter this much at most at a time. So, let's put that in our pan and pan it down. See all the fine gold all through it coming back down? This looks like it's going to be a good pan. So, I've got all my fine gravels in here. First step, as always, just stratify up. Spend ages making sure it's all correctly sunk to the bottom. It's really the process for the fine gold once you get down to it is actually very similar to normal bigger gold once it's classified. However, I would not use riffles. I'm not going off the riffles, I'm going straight off the side. You want to really flow the material off, not boom, boom, sort of more shove it off like most panning. You can see there, I now have all my... Drain that water off. I now have all my light gravels clearly on top. Now, a key with microfine gold is don't go too far into the back of the pan. Just eat off the end of it, because microfine gold can collect in these corners and then be pulled off, particularly if you don't have the dish liquid. That's one of the massive pluses it has. So I suggest stratifying up on the side like this and just nibbling off the end. See how that's material's just coming off? The light stuff is just going to float off. You just got to really take your time. Take it bit by bit. As soon as we start, we're going to fling gold over the sides. See, I'm avoiding getting the water all the way back. Because, you see on the side here, we've got lines of black sand and garnet sand, the heavy stuff, emerging. I'm happy with that. Re-stratify. See how heavy's in the corner there? See, there's actually some gold there. You see it in the corner? So that's why we don't want to rip the water all the way up into the back. You can see it's getting a bit redder towards the centre there. That's as we're digging into the next heaviest layer of gravel. See all the black sand showing? So that tells me I just want to get this stuff off on the end and then re-stratify. back up again. Next wave of lights to go. I'm going to repeat this for a bit and then get back to you. Okay, so now we're down to our next stage of panning. We just have heavies left, so garnet and black sand. As you can see, all our light blonde sand and a lot of our garnet sand has already been panned off. So the key here is vision. What I do is I like to shake my pan up, so you do risk losing gold when panning off black sand. It sits in with it, and fine gold especially sometimes struggles to penetrate the black sand layer due to all the surface tension. But what I like to do, we've still got a little bit of lights in there, but what I like to do is pan it off and just keep an eye on this end point at the top here and see if you can see any golds. See, there's a little speck of gold way down there. See that just little piece off the edge? And I want to make sure I don't see any gold migrating up the center, or most importantly, along the sides. Panning off little by little. See the gold staying down there? Because most of our gold should be concentrated under this bottom, in this bottom corner, on this bottom lip here. So what I do is I keep an eye out on the end. Just slowly pan it off bit by bit. Make sure I'm not seeing any gold migrate up. Should be pretty obvious, even with microfine gold, if you see a speck. And it should be moving slower. If it is panning off at the end there, it'll be moving a lot slower than any of the other gravels. It will take 3 to 4 pans, or dips in and out of the water, to get it off, versus the black sand and garnet sand, which will only take 1 to 2. So, basically, do that for a few times. Repeat the process, making sure that gold gets down to that bottom lip by shaking it up. And keep doing this over and over and over and over. We'll get back to you once I'm down to a lower level. So I've just got down to the bottom of just the heaviest of heavy materials. So basically solid, I can't remember which mineral it is, but the solid silvery stuff, which is even heavier than the magnetite and iron black sands. And then, if the camera focuses, the iron black sands. As you can see, you can actually see the little bits of gold that are stuck in with it. So at this point, it gets very difficult to continue panning the method I did. So what I do now is the spin back strategy. So water up, spin back like that, just really gently, bit by bit. Pulling the gravel back down, and you can once again keep an eye out on the center and sides to make sure no gold's coming down. Then once you get a set amount on this side, what you do is you turn the pan round, shake that little bit up, and then pan that off like you normally would. And then while you're panning it off, but more aggressively obviously, then while you're panning it off, you can see, look at the bottom there. There's one little speck of gold that got in with that. Make sure you're not panning off any gold. So you've got 2 layers of protection. See how gold's just sitting there at the bottom there? 2 little specks. The camera's not really focusing, sorry. But we just got rid of that much. So we'll keep doing this till we get down to the bottom. A bit more spinning back, and I'm just getting down to the last little bit. Nice consistent colour showing up in the pan. Just a really ultra heavy black sands now. And I'm just continuing to spin it all back. Need a bit more water. Separating those lighters best I can from the gold. And then panning it off gently on the end, just like that. Obviously that's not how I was actually doing it, but you guys get the gist. We'll keep going. So when I get down to my last little bit, this is when I'll start collecting the gold. So as you can see, we have totally pure gold. I've just separated from all the black sand. This is most of our gold here. I've just spun the black sand back using the spin back strategy, and I have all the gold separate there. As you can see, it ranges from teeny dots you can't even see on the camera, all the way up to very small flakes. But as a whole, it's all sizes of microfine gold here. Now, there's still gold in this stuff because I spun back the whole lot. That means there will be some gold. As you can see, there's a bit there. But what I'll do is I'll suck this up, then I'll repeat the process with this, getting it down less and less, because the less gold we have, the more difficult it's going to be to lose 1 or 2 pieces of that gold, for example. So, we'll suck this up, and then get back to you. Right, so in total, after about half an hour, I've got all that gravel. And remember, this is heavy sluice concentrates, panned down to just the pure gold snuffed up in the sucker bottle. Now, I can see in the bottom of the pan, I can see one little visible piece of gold there. So this is stuff I've lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully, possibly even more carefully, go back through all of this and show you how much gold, panning fine gold like that carefully, I missed versus how much I recovered. I'll get to that and get back to you. So it's about an hour later, and here is the gold I recovered the first time. All come out of the snuffer bottle, as you can see. All that colour there. That was our first run through. And then I haven't sucked any of it up, just so I could give a visualisation, and I didn't want to mix the two. This is the gold I missed. So you can see there's about maybe 50 nanodots all throughout that have come off. And then 2 or 3 more weirdly shaped flakes. But all up, you know, that versus that, I would say that is a 98% recovery rate, which for microfine gold is exceptional, especially when, as I've said, this is some of the hardest stuff to deal with. This is just solid black sand, garnets, super heavy minerals. Especially with the material this is. This is some of the hardest material I've ever dealt with to pan. It is just solid black sand and heavy minerals. So that's awesome. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan through all of this, which is also more sluice concentrates, and get back to you and show you the recovery versus the loss. We're getting down to the last little bit, and you can just see a pile of fine gold accumulating in that bottom corner there. Once I get down to the last little bit, I usually stop doing the spin back and just go back to the panning off the end while looking for specks of gold strategy. Those bits up the top aren't gold, it's just reflective mica. Or not mica, just some sort of shiny, heavy mineral. But as you can see, most of our gold's down that bottom corner. I have had a few bits come off. I have lost a few bits, but reason for this is I didn't have enough liquid in the pan at the time. And so a few bits of gold just shot off, floated off, boom, I just saw them floating off. So I've put some more in, and now we no longer have that issue. But of course, at the end, I'm going to go back through all this, test it, and see how much we lost versus how much we recovered using these effective fine gold panning methods. Before we show you the results, I'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our channel Patreon supporters. And I'd also like to welcome along Mike Wallace, who is our newest channel Patreon supporter. Thanks heaps for your support. Your name is now in the draw. So, this video's giveaway, I'm actually giving away something that I won myself. I believe I won this from Digger Mike. He's actually one of our patrons. And this is a stunning 1940 British, so this was a circulating coin. This is a prime example, 50% pure silver half crown. It's nothing too flashy, but I thought it would be a beautiful wee giveaway for this video. And next video is going to be a big giveaway. Reason for that, a big patrons giveaway. Reason for that is next video coming up on this channel is our best gold find of all time. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be so exciting. I am hyped to get this one uploaded for you guys. But all you patrons, stay tuned for next video, and you'll get that epic giveaway. If anyone else wants to join as a channel patron member and help support the channel and get entry to that giveaway, the link will be in the description below. But thanks heaps, guys. Time to do the straw. We have a winner, Joe Pearson. Congratulations, Joe. You have just won this beautiful 1940 British silver half crown. I'll be in touch with you over on the Patreon. Now, time to show the results. Right, so it is now well and truly dark outside. It is a good few hours later, and I've finally panned through, not actually all. I gave up halfway through because I don't want to spend another 3 hours here. But what I did is I panned through half of my concentrate, sucked that all up best I could, then I went back through it again, and then got down to the last little bit, and that's going to show roughly, so this of the stuff we'd already panned and sucked out, so that's going to show probably 80% of what we lost. Let's be really, really generous and say we lost a whole 20% again, going back through getting the stuff we lost, which wouldn't be the case at all. But let's say this is 80% of our losses in here, versus Look at all that gold. That is a lot of fine gold. Thousands of specks. As you can see, all the chunkier flakes there too. But yeah, that's what came out of that. And this is roughly our losses. There is gold in here. See some specks around the edge there? But it is not much. So, you can see there's maybe a dozen specks around the edge. And what we mostly lost is the flakier bits. Particularly those bits, see that's actually gold, but it's covered in mercury. Particularly mercury covered bits because I didn't see them. But these flakier bits, they sit on top of the black sand, which makes them actually harder to separate. You can see all the little bits of gold coming through. See there? Which actually makes them harder to separate than some of the fine gold. But as you can see, there are specks. There is gold. But I would say there's maybe 50, pushing out 100 pieces in there. See 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 50 pieces of gold in there. Versus, well, that speaks for itself, over 1,000. Well over 1,000. So I'd say 98% gold recovery in the first run, panning fine gold using these methods, with a heck of a lot of black sand and heavies to contend with as well. So in conclusion, panning fine gold is basically just an over-complicated version of normal panning that you really, really have to take your time with. If you do, you're going to recover very high percentages using these methods. Of course, you'll still lose some, more so than you will with chunkier gold, but using these methods I taught you in this video, you can expect to see returns of over 95%, as long as you take your time. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. I know no one likes it, but you got to take your time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to smash down that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.